Hey guys, what's up? I know I haven't made a Dark and Darker video in about 7 months. I've kind of took a break from the game. I've been playing a lot of Deadlock and then having a lot of fun playing that. I'm playing some Catan online. It's fun. You should try it. I'm gonna talk about kind of the failure, right? The failure of Dark and Darker. Now you could argue that Dark and Darker is not a failure. It sold hundreds of thousands of copies, grossed multiple millions of dollars. But the game has lost its hype, and for a lot of players, it's kind of lost the magic that it had during the playtest. So let's talk about it. Why is Dark and Darker falling off so hard, and will it ever come back? So Dark and Darker really hit the public eye during playtest 3. I believe this is when it hit over 100,000 concurrent players on Steam. Obviously, this led to the lawsuit from Nexon that is still going on to this day. The game was hailed as this next big step for extraction games. It caused tons of, ripoffs to pop up. Those ripoffs are still popping up to this day. And it led to people completely no-lifing the game during the short week-long playtests. There are a lot of people where they, took a week off work and they just played it for 16 hours a day, even longer, barely even sleeping. That's kind of a good sign for a video game if people are foregoing work, foregoing sleep, probably not eating as much as they should just to play your video game. Eventually, the game did make it to early access despite all of the lawsuit stuff. Sold over 500,000 copies. It got back on Steam, was on Epic Games. Obviously, it's been removed from Epic Games. And then the hype just kind of stopped. Did the game get worse? Did it not live up to the hype? Is it because, the devs are evil and hate everyone? I'm not entirely sure that's exactly what happened. In my opinion, the game is much better in almost every aspect than it was during the playtest. The only difference is that the game's no longer brand new. Right? There's a lot of magic during the playtest where no one had ever played a game like it and couldn't play a game like it because the game was only out for a week at a time. And everybody, got the game they wanted. Now, there's been a lot of drama with the devs, specifically SDF not being a good person. There's been a lot of lawsuit drama. I'm not really going to go into that a whole lot. If you want, I'm sure there's 1,000 videos about those issues. I'd recommend going to OnePeg's channel. He talks about those quite a bit. He's very good at giving, an overview and going into all the details of that. So go check out those videos. But if those aren't why the game has kind of lost its magic and lost a majority of its player base, why has it? In my opinion, it comes down to 3 main things. Now, again, this is my opinion. You're welcome to disagree or agree. Let me know in the comments, all that fun stuff. But the 3 main things are, number 1, the game has not had a new player onboarding experience. This is something that's been talked about so many times. I think since the game was in a playtest, people have been talking about some sort of tutorial. There's no tutorial. Number 2, there's been a very slow addition of new content. Now, this is where maybe the lawsuit and the devs not being the greatest at times may have affected kind of where the game is at now. There is a lot of new content compared to when the game was released, but it's been a couple of years. And for how long the game's been out, content's been very slow. And then number 3, this kind of ties to 1 and 2, is that the player base kind of sucks. They complain a lot, they whine. You got a bunch of people who only play Dark and Darker. Like people have 10,000 hours in Dark and Darker. That's more than some professional CSGO players have in CSGO, the game that they play for a living. And you got people who don't play Dark and Darker for a living having more hours than that, which is pretty crazy. It ties to number 1 because they're able to play against brand new players and just shit stomp them into the curb, right? And that's not great for new people. They did try to address the new player experience with like account levels. Maybe that's still a thing. It doesn't really seem like it. I feel like when I see people playing nowadays, they're either just stomping the biggest Timmies in the world or they're not seeing anybody. So I'm going to start off with the new player experience or like the onboarding experience. I do kind of have a video about this, and it's old. I think that might be the last Dark and Darker video I've made, and it still hasn't been addressed. They did add a PvE only mode, which kind of helps, but I think the PvE only mode is implemented poorly, and it's still not really a tutorial. Almost every single game you ever play loads you right into a tutorial. Almost every single one. The reason for that is because if you don't know how to play a video game, you are not going to play it. It's just super simple. And I'm saying a lot. I apologize for that. There's not even an intro cinematic. You get in, you can go in immediately and die. And some people really like that because it's, super hardcore. It's really easy to get around that. You just say, hey, you want to skip the tutorial? Press this button. Bam. Solve that problem. It's not healthy if you need lots of new players, which is kind of what a live service game like this needs. Is it needs new players who are coming in and who are going to play it for a while and ideally come back every time the game wipes. Like I said earlier, Iron Mace has tried to address this. They did like account levels, they did player levels, like player character levels, I should say. And of course, the awful community abused that to Timmy Stomp and then complains about the game. So, the game's really hard. People do not have fun dying over and over again, at least most people, if they're not accomplishing anything. And this has led to the game struggling to keep new players. My second point is pretty straightforward. There hasn't been a lot of new content in recent times, at the very least. It's very few and far between. And when your main player base no-lifes the game and they don't do anything else but play your game, if you're not consistently releasing new content, they get bored. A lot of players are able to essentially accomplish everything in the game in the first couple of days of wipe. They obviously they can't complete all the quests because they're time gated, but most of the quests suck anyways. In old wipes, like a long time ago, every time it wiped, it used to like slowly drip feed drop rates, which was really nice because it meant like the first couple of weeks, maybe the first 2 weeks, if you got a purple item, it was awesome because there weren't very many of them. So it actually made you feel like a sense of accomplishment every time you got something good in the dungeon. Whereas now you get like 10 legendaries every time you go. On September 23rd of this year, so if in a week from when I'm recording this, they're supposed to release a major update. Should have a new map, new mobs. They've talked about like a social space, maybe guilds. Hopefully this will be enough new content for players to return to the game. If it's just a new map and new monsters, I don't think it'll be enough to keep people there. And then my final point, which I've kind of touched on quite a bit, is that the main player base no-lifes the game. They complain about everything. So much so that I think that's probably part of the reason we've had very little new content, is because every time something changes, people complain about it. And so then the devs go and look at their change and focus so much on balancing when they should, in reality, just make sure nothing's completely broken and then just continue to add new content. In games like League of Legends or Counter-Strike, or Rainbow Six Siege, Apex Legends, all these other games where people do no-life them and get really good at them, those players are at least separated from the main player base and all play against each other, and they have like a ladder they can climb. Now, there is the Demigod adventure rank in Dark and Darker, but that doesn't really do that. That's just kind of a grind fest, and it's mostly about fighting monsters, so it doesn't really keep all of the skilled no-lifers together playing the game. So the lack of new content, the lack of a new player onboarding experience, and the player base just playing the fun out of the game has led to where Dark and Darker is currently at. I still think it's one of the greatest games that's come out in recent history. I love it a lot still, even though I haven't played it. And I do hope that the game does have some sort of revival. I don't know if it'll ever reach the heights it was once at. I would love to be wrong. The issues I've talked about wouldn't be super hard to fix. The biggest concern is that it's kind of, too little too late. If they did consistent content releases, if you think about like when Fortnite blew up, I think it was like almost every week or every 2 weeks they were adding some sort of new content. And yeah, some people were unhappy with it sometimes, but for the most like the majority of players, it was cool because it was something new to do, and it kept that game going for quite a while, and it's still a very big game to this day. It's a great way to give, new players something to come back to, and it gives those people who've played the crap out of the game something to look forward to as well. Now, given what we've heard from ex-Iron Mace employees, a lot of these issues seem to be caused by the bottlenecks from SDF having to say yes or no to everything, and then he's bottlenecked by the legal issues. So maybe that's the root of all of it, but I think those are the three main issues. So that's kind of like my opinion on how Dark and Darker failed. It's a failure. Obviously, I didn't go into all the nitty-gritty details, but if you'd like those, there's a ton of videos, like I said, and I'd encourage you to go watch those. I'll still come back and play Dark and Darker occasionally. I think it's still a lot of fun. I really like playing it with my friends. Really hard to get my friends to play the game because there's no new content. They get shit stomped all the time by no-lifers. So take that as you will. Maybe that's exactly what I just talked about. But I do think that a lot of people would have more fun with Dark and Darker if they played other games more often. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Maybe I'll make another Dark and Darker video one day. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you later.